seconds. Ready to turn to Judy for that one. I appreciate that.
Yeah, really nice.
I'd like to call order the Green Lake Township Special Board Meeting on March 5th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Judy, can you do a roll call, please?
Biganowski.
Here.
West. Here. McDonald.
Here.
Biondo is absent. Merrick.
Here.
Kramer here, and Radke.
Present. If we could at this point in time, if you have any smart devices, if you could put them on vibrate or silent, that would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, if we could rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Prior to anybody making that motion, I would make a request that we remove the ARPA funds, Roadwork Camp Saki, and Memorial Park from the agenda. That is taking another turn. We are going in front of the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners tomorrow morning for a request. So I'd like to postpone any action on this and just remove it from this agenda.
Perfect. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with just the nuisance ordinance. Second.
We have a motion by Merrick, supported by McDonald, to approve the agenda with the removal of the ARPA funds projects. Any discussion? Hearing none? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. With that being said, public comment. I would ask that you rise, go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, keep your comments time limit to 3 minutes, and direct your statements to myself towards the board, please. So at this point in time, I'm offering an opportunity for the public to make a public comment. Is that you, Scott?
Well, he brought a whole box of stuff. He's ready to go.
Scott Richards, 11802 Fredmont, Interlochen. 5 o'clock is not a good time for a lot of people. I'm lucky that I can work for myself, but 5 o'clock, most people are just now getting out of work. So I don't think 5 o'clock's a good time to have a special meeting. Second, I have petitions over there for nominating Joshua Saul to the 1st Congressional District. He wants to take on Jack Berman. And I have a nominating petition over there for Dr. Sherry O'Donnell. She wants to run for U.S. Senate, Debbie Stabenow's place. And the 3rd petition I have over there is XMI tax. It's to get rid of property tax. It's to put it on the ballot for next year, if anybody's interested in signing. Thank you.
Didn't last long. Any other public? Sir?
Tim Kramer, 10793 White Pine Road, Interlochen. On the nuisance ordinance, my biggest concern is that I know somebody spent a lot of time to try to rewrite this thing. It basically says the same thing that the old one does. The problem with the old one too is that we don't enforce it. We have properties in this township that have been laying there when Rita signed this one. How long has that been? 30 years. We got Scott Grinder's property, a couple other properties that are pretty sad. And I can't believe that township officials drive by there every day. And it doesn't bother you. But yet we pick on some other people for stupid little things. So that's my biggest concern, is that if we rewrite this and tell people what a snowmobile is, and a car, and a boat, and ash is in their driveway or whatever we're putting in our buildings, and this, that, and the other thing, that it's going to become a bigger problem, you know. If you own a boat, you should be allowed to put it in your driveway. You're in northern Michigan. If you got a snowmobile, you should be able to put it in your driveway. Now, we don't need them all ripped apart laying there, but, you know, there has to be some give and take. My biggest concern is that you have a junk ordinance that you've done nothing with ever since Rita was alive. She's the one who signed it, so that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Very good. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
How do you see him? He blends right in.
You got the safety
Yeah, you can
covers
hardly see
on.
me. Calvin Wilson, 8832 South Road, Interlochen. A few things, I also have 3 minutes. First, I want to thank our zoning administrator. I think she's been doing a great job. I've never had a complaint from anybody that's come to the ZBA during a meeting about our administrator. I think she's very fair. That being said, I worry about future administrators or future officials on the board. I've been a part of a recall in a different township where power can get to people's heads and they start to abuse it. So, first thing I want to cover is, I think that farmers should be exempt from the junk ordinance. Some people may know, some don't, especially with emissions nowadays. Newer equipment breaks down all the time. You're down for months. Farmers can't be down for months. They hold on to equipment, older stuff, to repair the stuff that they currently have running. That might be an implement, that might be a tractor, whatever it may be. Now, I think the township's very fair with that, but I could also see somebody coming in and abusing it, maybe that doesn't like that certain farmer, or whatever that may be. So, I think that's something that should be looked at. The enforcement, I think if the board appoints anybody, it should not be another board member of any other board. It should be somebody that's completely separate from that. They should not be elected, because then you can play favorites. So-and-so got me on, I'm gonna help their friend out, whatever it may be. Another thing to think about with the sheriff's department enforcing it is each township's different. So I would suggest, and I'm sure maybe we have looked at that, maybe looking at other townships nearby, because they all have junk ordinances too, and trying to be somewhat close to that, because you might have a sheriff deputy that comes out, says, well, I don't know the ordinances, I need a day to go read through all of it. So that might be something else to think about. And I think I've about out of time, so that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Yes.
Heather Lee, 9649 First Street, Interlochen. I have talked to the township officials on this already, and as he brought up Scotty Griner's junkyard, I was informed that he would be grandfathered in. If we look at the grandfather law, that means everybody in this township right now is grandfathered in. So my question is, how are you going to hold businesses accountable when you hold residents accountable? It's not the same. So this needs to be wrote to where the grandfather law does not apply to one specific person. It should be towards everybody. And then who decides what's junk in our yards and what's not? You know, are you going to have somebody special to go around and do that? Because what I think is junk might not be what he thinks is junk. And so there needs to be more investigation into this before it's even passed. So that's all I said. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Yes, sir.
Yes, Stephen Moore, 2120 Conley Road, also Sycamore, US 31-11-075. We've been here 48 years. This township's been a great township, but at this point, I think this ordinance is a little bit over the top. And number one, before anything like that is passed, I think it should go to a vote to the general public, not just something shoved in under the table. There isn't enough people around to even know this meeting exists, let alone what's going on behind the backs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that would wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda and we'll move on to new business, the nuisance ordinance. Yes, Andy?
Marv, I believe it's the responsibility of the township to regularly review our ordinance, the township ordinances and policies to ensure that they are relevant, up-to-date, and lawful. We have been talking about our junk ordinance since at least September and received public comment and legal advice from the township legal counsel on this matter. Since the current junk ordinance was adopted in 2005, a few changes have occurred, including the Sheriff's Department stated they will not be the enforcement mechanism for the township ordinances. Our township attorney has recommended a small change to the current ordinance. I also have an amendment to the current ordinance I would like to propose. The township attorney recommends we add the language, Green Lake Township hereby ordains the following in accordance with MCL 42.20 at the top of the page. My recommendation is under Section 3, add the Green Lake Township zoning administrator, Green Lake Township ordinance enforcement officer, any appointee by the Green Lake Township Board will complete the sentence to the Grand Traverse Sheriffs and his deputies are authorized enforcement officers of this ordinance. I have a copy here highlighted so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's a little easier. I have some copies for you guys as well, so you're not in the dark of what we're talking about. There's that. Hey, Roy. Can you give these up to anyone who wants one that I've got enough copies for, please?
Here's an extra one. Roy.
Here's an extra.
With that, I make the motion that the township adopts the amendments to junk ordinance 030205, the current junk ordinance, contingent on the township attorney's review and approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Merrick, supported by Kramer, to amend the existing Green Lake Township junk ordinance 030205. That would include Green Lake Township hereby ordains the following in accordance with MCL 42.20 at the top, and under Section 3, it will read in its entirety, the Green Lake Township zoning administrator, Green Lake Township ordinance enforcement officer, any appointee by the Green Lake Township Board of Trustees. The Grand Traverse County Sheriff and his deputies are authorized as local enforcement officers of this ordinance. Those are the complete changes that you've outlined and that I see on this, on the paper you handed out.
There's an error in that second sentence under the Green Lake Township zoning administrator. He's got office, and then you said it was officer.
Oh, sir, sorry. Thank you.
And to clarify, this is to add to the current.
The current that we've had since 2005, correct.
Why, what do you want to amend this for without even discussing any of the points that...
Because I see nothing in that proposed ordinance that really is important or crucial for what we've been discussing, any of the issues that we've had with our ordinance. In my opinion, as one board member, is we lacked the authority to enforce our ordinance.
Right.
That was the only thing that I saw wrong. You, as another board member, could want to add other stuff, that's fine, but this is my take on what, after looking at this in September, needs to be done to correct our ordinance and bring it up to date and make it lawful.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the comments written
That's what
January 30th, 24 by a township attorney.
Yep, I read all of that.
Yeah, so, and that's what he recommends, and as far as a barking dog problem, that's already addressed under the noise ordinance that we have. And we're opening this up for discussion. This is similar, your comments, Andy, are on. I was gonna go through what's described as the nuisance ordinance. And I believe public mentioned that, you know, if we don't know what a boat is, or what a dock, or, you know, the et cetera, the common definition of said, I don't understand why we're diving so far in if that ordinance has been in effect since 2005, yeah.
April
Adopted
27th.
March 2005, April 27th, 2005 has become effective. I personally didn't see anything wrong with the old one. We were looking at it, as was mentioned, is we just have to, you know, go through and administer it. And with a police power ordinance, there is no grandfathering clause. A police power ordinance is administered to every property. Today, there is no grandfathering. Grandfathering is strictly and solely with zoning ordinances. And as far as farmers being exempt, they fall under the Right to Farm Act. I believe that's correct, Mr. Caskey? You went through that as well, so that particular use is exempt, so that's...
I'm not sure it's that broad, honestly.
The Right to Farm Act?
To
Yeah,
cover junk,
yeah.
it doesn't cover junk.
Just sit
It's
there.
not necessarily part of a farm operation, I don't think so.
Well, junk, as far as what people describe as junk, is they have a combine that was constructed back in 1947. They still use it. They store it along the road. Same thing with a cultivator,
And that's
disc.
why people specifically expressly exempt out farm operations, because I don't think it's covered, honestly.
It's a right to farm. Well, that's yours, and
All right.
I'm not gonna sit there and go after a cat, and if I have a bonfire about ashes, whether it's seen from the road or seen from the neighbors, that's, how can I say this when I'm live? I just disagree. I believe our existing junk ordinance generally portrays what we would not like to have. You know, if someone's got a 84 Yugo, or if it's a three-door, it's a Wego, dismantled and upside down, that's junk. But if they have a 1967 Charger, that's a different story. It's, you know, within reason.
Let's back up here. I mean, I've been on board for like 20 years, and my understanding is, and the way it's been treated with enforcement, is that we have limited resources, and we only pick the top 3 or 4 of the nuisance areas or junk areas per year, because that's the most we can handle, to have our staff and whoever chase attorneys and pay money to issue tickets and enforce.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I was here 10 years before you. We were only supposed to do a few at a time, and then we went through this revolving zoning administrator issue, where, you know, we let them get up to speed, and maybe they'd send a letter, and then they'd die, or then they'd quit, or we'd fire them, and we never really got on that routine of picking the top couple a year and doing a couple a year. And we all knew that there's 40 places in the township we could prosecute on day one, but we've had this discussion. We can't do 40 in 1 year. We were going to pick the top couple and do some of those, and I thought that was happening. Now, our definition of junk is pretty broad, okay? Now, whoever said that, you know, Margaret said that the police won't enforce the junk ordinance, that's nonsense. I mean, like I said, I'm the attorney for the Village of Kingsley. Our community police officer goes out and issues a damn ticket, takes the pictures, and testifies for us in the prosecution for civil infractions. Okay, that's what's gonna happen here. I mean, Brian's gonna have to be our prosecutor, but it's a civil infraction enforcement. The only reason I'd want to change the definition of junk, the car is kind of old and broad, is if one of our local district judges starts getting weaselly and says, oh, you guys didn't define junk close enough. But to my understanding, and my knowledge, and my experience, that has not happened yet. So, yeah, I think our junk definition is not super, but to this point, I don't think any of our judges have said, you know, what you brought to me, township, is not junk. So again, if we change the definition, we're fixing a problem that doesn't exist. It's a solution to something that we don't have a problem with. So, you know, it's not a great definition of junk. If you look at the modern definitions of junk, they're a lot more detailed, but we haven't had a problem. We haven't been thrown out of court because something didn't meet the criteria for junk. I mean, our judges have been sensible about that. So, you know, in a way, I'm agreeing with Marv and Andy that maybe we don't need to change a whole lot. But, you know, on the enforcement part, yeah, this is a police power ordinance, and that was Brian Graham, our attorney, said, you know what, we really ought to call it out as a police power ordinance so someone doesn't raise a defense that it's a zoning ordinance and I'm grandfathered. So he gave us the MCL citation. The other one we had does have the little verbiage that should also go in there. You know, the purpose of the ordinance to prohibit nuisances ensure the public health, safety, and welfare. Those are magic words. They really ought to be in there. The statute kind of covers it. So, that's my comment. It was really more towards the enforcement. You don't think that we just been doing a couple a year?
We did
No.
4 big ones this year that we paid. 4? 3 that we paid. 3 that we paid some
Okay, so
significant money, and a whole lot more that were cleaned up.
We did 5.
5?
Yeah.
And the clarification, the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department and Sheriff will not enforce or will not issue citations. However, the communities that have a community police officer are able to assist the township in issuing tickets.
I have no problem whatsoever, and ours will do it in a heartbeat.
Yes, as long as we have one, correct.
Well, it's not
We
a
have
problem
it.
then.
Right, not, no,
We have one.
correct.
So the only
In
question,
2005, we didn't.
And we might not next year if the board decides not to
Yeah.
pay, or
So,
the academy
that's-
says we're not going to pay part of it.
That's why we have that in there as well. Right, we are very fortunate at this point in time, Interlochen Center of the Arts pays 50% of our community police officer who is able to, we could pay the other half to be able to follow through on some of these.
so Dave, if we, you know, since we do have to add the top, instead of nuisances, can we have that be junk so that it coincides with the junk ordinance?
Nuisance is a term of art and a term of law. It's defined, and there are 2 statutes for zoning and police power that say nuisances per se are a violation, whatever. So no, we have to use the word nuisance. Junk waters it down.
But, Dave, the ordinance that we're working with is the junk ordinance. So would that have to be adapted to junk and nuisance maybe, and that would solve it all? The one we got from Rita is just a junk ordinance. And then what the lawyer give us,
I mean, I would add more to it than what Andy said. Usually it
Right,
says
I
anybody
would
who
change
uses
his
this
goal.
ordinance shall be deemed a nuisance per se. I would add a line that says that. And again, I thought this was a work session, and we weren't going to make motions and adopt anything today, so I didn't bring it with me, but
if you guys remember, Marv and I have been around since this ordinance got put into place. Do you remember the fit that was going on? I can tell you who was involved that caused it, Rick Sager. Remember?
Yes.
And they wanted, you couldn't have a trailer in your front yard, you couldn't park your RV in your front yard and all of that. And after a while, this is how this come about, this simple, straightforward thing. And I think it served a purpose. Somebody out here said, Tim, that it's never been enforced. I think it has been enforced because I can remember different people that the township is asked to go and enforce the junk ordinance. The other lady that was talking about grinders being grandfathered in, I don't know who would have told her that, because you're not grandfathered in for the junk ordinance. That's only if your land wasn't the right size for a place, you had a house or something in the wrong place. But my question, I had it written right down here, is what problem does this not cover, meaning this ordinance, and why we weren't working from that instead of all this other stuff that I read?
Because I think Pat asked the same question you just asked, if I recall correctly. In that regards there.
Well, and the reason that I'm in agreement with working with the old ordinance, I think if we actually work with it, the new ordinance that was presented to the board is too onerous. I don't feel that it's our job, like everyone has said, to tell people that they need to, stack their wood properly, they need to, have no ashes in their yard, no boats, this and that. I think it's just, it's an outreach on our part, and I know that we have had 5 different times that we've gone to court in the last year using the current junk ordinance, and we have had no issues whatsoever. I agree with the rest of the board that, why fix what isn't broken? I think that if the attorney had suggested adding in this extra wording, and I think that if we do that, then it will protect us, so that if we do have to go to court, we will be fine without going from 1 page to, 10 pages. I just think it's just not right.
And I haven't heard any reason why we need to bring, this was just a boilerplate proposal or draft that was presented to us to work off of, and I've seen no reason other than the 2 minor changes that our current ordinance wouldn't continue to serve the township into the future. That's why I want to we could kick the can down the road another 4 years if we want, but I think this is what we need to do, and that's why I made the motion I did tonight, to just take care of this.
And I guess, are you opposed to adding that upper wording into our
I'm not
motion?
opposed to it, but that wasn't something that was recommended by attorney, that's why I didn't add that in there. Dave does make a good point that that's not bad to have that in there. I don't know if it's needed.
I don't change the words from junk to nuisance. I keep the same words, and it says, a person that keeps junk, it shall be considered a nuisance. All violations of this, whatever, shall be considered a nuisance. So now we can use all the nuisance, all the statutes, because the state statutes don't use the word junk, they use the word nuisance. So I would convert it to a nuisance. I could easily do this, at my desk.
Are you okay with changing it so I'll agree if you want to change it?
I'm fine changing it to nuisance.
Change the substance whatsoever. I would just make it more compatible with the state statutes. I do like the abatement language. I'm really surprised when you guys went for abatements that you guys got the judgments. And I can see somebody putting up a stink and saying, you don't have that authority. I don't know what you think, Pat, but I would have liked to have maybe grabbed that spot out of this new drafting. It just expressly sets forth the authority for abatement. Now, you guys got a judge to order it anyway, and it happened, and you actually got to put it on taxes. That's what the end result you want, but you did it without any language, which is kind of surprising to me. Some guy like Pat would have fought that if he did it to him.
You wanted to put
So you think that
section
should-
10, are you talking? Is that where you're talking for abatements?
Well,
Page 8?
I mean, I thought it was a work session and we talked about it. So, yeah, I like that. Because sometimes you get these squishy district court judges that say, where do I have authority to hit the guy with the cost of cleanup? Hadn't happened yet, but it's gonna.
I don't see the need to add that in there personally. I mean, we've been able to do it so far, and the goal is to get the property cleaned up, not to fine or to punish the residents. We want
But you shouldn't
compliance.
be cleaning the property up at the expense of the rest of the residents.
I didn't say I didn't say my goal was for us to go clean up. Our goal, I think, is for people to be in compliance with what the ordinance is. And if we can do that through a small fine of $500, great. If not, we can continue along the path that we have, I believe, a couple of times this year. I don't know the number off the top of my head. Where we clean the property up and we put a tax lien on it to get that property cleaned up and reimburse the taxpayers the expense, because when we pay it, it's not the township paying, it's the residents of the tax,
The
which you
residents,
know.
but Dave just said that we're lucky that the judge would let him do that. That's why he wants the abatement put into this
But
ordinance.
we've had no problem now up to this point. We've done it several times this year where the judge ordered that payment.
You've done it to people that didn't have attorneys. They just laid down and took it.
I was not part of that, so I can't tell you that they had attorneys or not, so I can't respond to your statement, Dave, I'm sorry.
I think if somebody defended themselves with an attorney, they might beat this. Keep asking Pat, you say nothing. I'm asking you. I think you can beat this, don't you? I do.
The judges are usually not that sympathetic,
Well,
even when I'm right.
I agree, it's so hard, it's not been a problem. I think you guys are lucky to get the money and the judgments. But I'm not sure that'll continue. There's a reason people put this language in.
Any other comments? Pat?
I was just thinking, I think what Dave wanted in the new draft, it's labeled section 9. I think that's what he would like added, which is sort of a simple, a violation is deemed a nuisance per se. Is that what you were looking for, Dave?
Yeah.
And my only other thought was, in our old ordinance, under section 4, where the second sentence says, commencing 30 days after receiving, I guess my thought would be to change notice, the next word, to a judgment of violation.
Well, see, you just run into another one of these things where our ordinance doesn't say you have to send them a letter or give them so many days to correct the problems before you can issue a citation. But I'll tell you, our judges do that whether we say it or not. So they're not going to go straight to the ticket if you didn't give them a letter first.
Right.
That's not written anywhere.
I've met with several attorneys, township attorneys, and judges. In fact, there's been quite a bit of upheaval in the state of Michigan in regards to junk, aka nuisance ordinance. And the judges really frown upon if the township does not work with the alleged violator with due diligence and give them, ample time, that they will come down hard on the townships,
I just
against
one
the
in Antrim
township.
County. I represented the junk guy, and they didn't give enough notice. The letter
Right.
expired, and Judge Cooney, our district court judge, 1 or 2, said no. He actually was step cutting it. He said, no, you guys blew the notice. Didn't give him a chance to fix it.
Yep, and that's, that should be due process. Obviously, there is no way I want to issue anybody a fine or a ticket. All we're asking for is, let's make it look somewhat decent. Let's clean it up, make sure nobody else can see it. Your treasures may be the definition of others' junk, so if they can't see your treasures, then it can't be deemed junk.
Now you know why it goes from 1 page to 11 pages.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That was
that's,
stuff.
we've been doing that consistently, for the most part, so, I'm just, the 8, 9 pages, I don't have an issue with going through and making sure that it says, to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare, and to provide, of the community. And I have no issues with adding number 9 or number 10. That's where I was confused. Pat said 9, I thought you used the word abatement, which is addressed under 10 of the proposed
I would do
draft,
both.
section 8.
I would do both.
So, both.
I do 9, 10, and 11.
That's for the recovery, or
That's the lien.
separate court action, abatement, and cost recovery. 9, 10, and 11.
It should be 6, 7, and 8 in our,
Oh,
it would be 6, 7, 3 numbers, 6, 7, and 8, 10.
Which, okay. I'm of one, I think, there was a resident that mentioned boats. I got a fishing boat, I got a pontoon, and I got a speedboat. I got
A kayak is
tractors.
not a speedboat, Marv.
No, and I got a tractor with tiller with, snow blower that's seasonal. This year I didn't have to use it a whole lot, thankfully. The buckets and the forks and all that stuff that go with it. It's not junk, even though I might only use it 2 hours out of the year.
Or decade.
What's that? Yeah, it used to be my hands and shovels. We're getting wiser. This,
Just for kids, I want to read you Long Lake's definition of farm. Farm operation means active enterprise primarily involving commercial production, harvesting, storage of plant and animal products useful to human beings on a site or sites within the township having combined area of 10 acres or more. So they make at least be 10 acres before you get the farm exemption. This is police power. Again, I don't know, right to farm act is more on zoning than police power, but I think if you want to exempt out farms, then you might.
absolutely I do.
it.
Yeah, if that's the case, I'm wholeheartedly in support of exempting farms as defined by...
80 acres of ag dirt total?
No, we got Sullivan Farm.
Zone.
Or zoned.
And you
ag.
633 is, that's our only farmland that's zoned farm, right?
No, we have Sullivan Farm, that's a centennial. We have Caskey's Funny Farm. You're zoned,
None of it's zoned. There's no ag property in Green Lake Township that I can find on any map.
It should be at Euchre,
It's-
633 should be.
we have zoning district with allowed ag uses as permitted. So we don't have 101, 201, 301, 401 zoning. That's the assessment. As far as qualified ag, the only ones that would qualify would be Sullivan's Farms or Wagner's Farms. That's on the west side of 633, north of Euchre. But they're in the residential class.
The color's right on the map.
So, with that being said, but we have active farms, so we'd use the term farm, not farm or ag district.
Because a lot of what you guys are saying about the definition of junk, we're accomplishing through discretion and enforcement. Okay?
Yep.
We choose not to go after the guy's snowplow because it's rusty or whatever. I mean, that's just common sense, and we're doing that, but it doesn't fit the definition. So,
Yeah.
again, if it's not a problem, I can see you guys kicking it down the road. The first time somebody gets lawyers up and beats us, we're gonna have to tweak this thing.
Unless we do
What if we just
9, 10, and
add
11.
9?
I would be happy
Make
to
it
amend
6,
my
7,
motion.
8, and add
That first paragraph.
that first line.
I'd amend my motion.
Don't amend your motion until Marv explains what all he's talking about. I've got the 9, 10, and 11, and you
Okay,
said
on
something
page
about-
1 at the top, an ordinance to prohibit
You
nuisances
like that one.
within Green Lake Township to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare,
Okay.
period.
You want to stop at welfare.
Well, or would you think we should add,
Use it as is.
use it as is,
Okay.
that
Paragraph or...
all cap section, everybody follow on page 1 of the draft nuisance ordinance?
The township agreement.
We call that a preamble.
Yes.
Dave, do we have to add junk into that? Or
No.
we can stick
I want
with
junk out.
junk?
So
You
we're
want
going
junk-
to
you
change the
want
name of the
junk.
ordinance to a nuisance ordinance.
Okay.
by the
And
junk.
remove, and replace junk with nuisance
For the title.
for the title and throughout the
No, you can't.
section down there at the bottom. Hang on. Oh, no, it already does that. Check that. Then we would add
No.
on page 8 of the draft ordinance, we would take section 9 from the draft ordinance and place it into
6.
the existing ordinance as section 6. We would take section 10, number that as section 7, section 11 of the draft, and put it into the existing and make it 8 of the ordinance. Is that correct?
That would be my amendment.
So far, then you said something about 6, 7, and 8.
That's what it-
Changing 9 to 6.
Changing those numbers,
Yes.
not the 6, 7, and 8.
Take section 9, make it 6, section 10, make it 7, section 11, make it 8, and place it into the existing nuisance
And
ordinance.
change it to a nuisance ordinance from a junk ordinance.
Correct.
So let's change everybody nuisance.
Following, and I'd also like to put a caveat in there that Dave brought up, exempting qualified ag operations by definition.
Where is that?
You got it?
And I'm not, as far as the acreage,
You don't,
no, I don't care if it's 1 acre. You know, if
As
it's
long as they've got the right to farm act
Yes.
qualifications.
qualifications, correct.
Exempt qualified egg, what was your?
Where would you want that put? Is it number 9,
Into number 1, maybe?
or number 1?
Yeah, at the end, put except qualified ag operations.
Under the right to farm act. Let that definition, let that be what sets it up.
you want to just see if you like this. Is this subsection forward? You can put that in number 1.
Okay, at, on the existing one-page ordinance that we've just added, 9 is 6, 10 is 7, 11 is 8, and the preamble, at the end of section 1, add, this subsection, however, shall not apply to any lawfully existing junk dealers, farm operations, or to garages and service stations openly and actively engaged in making service repairs to motor vehicles for the public.
Turns out the state of Michigan issues like 3 kinds of licenses for people to have vehicles for salvage and for storage, whatever. And they have a state license, I think they're exempt from this personally. And that's what you just read.
So
Mary
with
Jo, did
that,
you get that?
I think so.
I'm going to reread that particular section of exemption. It starts off with this subsection, comma, however, comma, oh, they're pretty grammar, shall not apply to any lawfully existing junk dealers, farm operations, or to garages and service stations openly and actively engaged in making service repairs to motor vehicles for the public. Period. That wasn't part of the reading.
Can you take a picture of that and send it to Mary?
Can Mary Jo just have that
Give
copy?
the whole thing, take the whole thing.
That was my amendment too.
Judy, second that?
I seconded, yep.
So we have a motion made by Merrick, supported by Kramer, to amend the existing junk ordinance with the addition of the preamble of the draft ordinance.
Correct. The Long Lake addition to section 1, removing the word junk in the title and changing it to nuisance, adding the last, oops, flipping the wrong piece of paper.
Adding 9 is 6, 10 is the 7, and 11 is 8.
Correct. Because the validity is already in there as 5. Yep.
So everybody somewhat grasp that?
And the-
Pat, you have a question, I can tell.
And the addition to number 1, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That was the Long Lake.
Yeah, the Long Lake edition.
Sorry.
Yep. Sherry, were you able to follow?
I got it all. Who's gonna have it printed out so that we can, wouldn't it be nice if we could read it, what gets printed out?
It has to be published after this meeting if we adopt it, so it won't go into effect until so many days after it's published, 20 to 30 days.
What I was
penalty.
wondering, no more to the effect was if they got it all written up in that, so then we could read it in its entirety and pass it at the board meeting next Monday,
Tuesday.
or Tuesday, I'm sorry.
That's Since it's Tuesday, yeah, what the heck?
Um,
But if you want, we can adopt it and it'll be in effect today.
Let's do this now.
I think we keep kicking it down the can, we've been talking about it since
You can
September.
preview it at the meeting next week.
There we go.
Yep, and if there's an issue, we have the ability to
Modify it at the meeting if we need to. We won't motion till after the meeting.
Judy, do you have any comments, statements in regards to the proposal?
Nope, I'm good.
Dave? Andy?
Nope, I'm good.
Myself, I have no other amendments, and this is out of character, this is out of line typically in how we do it, but this has been apparently a concern. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on what has been stated? Yes, sir. Up to the podium, sir.
For the people at home want to hear you.
Yes, and smile, you're on camera.
Paul Johnson, Duck Lake Peninsula 4076. Your comment, there's 3 licensings for garages. Should the word license be added where we talked about the garages and the
I think those
junkyard?
names are terms of art, those are the names.
Yes.
The license goes with that name, so you don't have to say license.
I have a
junkyard
salvage license, we said salvage.
Okay.
I have a whatever license, I have that license.
Right, that was my only question, if you needed to add the term license to that. If not, we're okay.
And they're actively engaged, so if that's the case, then they have to be compliant.
Thank you.
Yes. Again, another opportunity. Mr. Caskey, are you understanding of the exemption part and of the junk ordinance as far as the ag exemption?
I don't understand how we're getting to where somebody's ag when it's not zoned correctly. I mean, I understand that we're making carve-outs.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, sir.
That's fine.
Gregory Caskey, 11711 US Highway 31. I appreciate the carve-outs. I'm glad that we're not putting a stipulation on acreage like Long Lake does, because people are doing this in smaller and smaller areas, and it's becoming more a thing to do. I just don't understand how that works, like my situation. We had to go around a lot, and I had to prove, I ended up having to go to court to prove that I was a farm. The Right to Farm Act is clear in their acreage, I think it's 15 acres. It's only 3 pages of a law, it's not really difficult. Yet, I ended up in front of a judge from this township. So, I'd really like it to be kind of clear. The other problem is the process is the punishment. I went for 2 years round and round with this township over my farm being a farm, and when I asked you guys to pay me for wasting my time, you guys didn't pay the bill. So there probably should be some stipulations in there. If I go to court for a nuisance ordinance and I win, other than my innocence, which I was already innocent, I had to prove myself innocent. That's not how this is supposed to work. What are we doing for the resident when that happens? Because this ordinance, none of the ordinance give that stipulation. You guys want to fine us, but when you're wrong, where's my fine? Because you were wrong when you came after me and my farm. Where's my fine? So, just something to keep in mind when we're passing ordinances and doing these things is,
Your problem's bigger than the township, because that works everywhere in the United States for criminal prosecution.
okay, so let's fix it. I don't care if it's a problem all over the United States. I'm worried about right here in Green Lake Township.
I'm not even sure that's constitutional.
Neither is coming after somebody that's farming on their property. State law.
Prosecutors,
So, if we got that. Another opportunity, any other questions, comments in that regards? Your statement, Mr. Kramer, has been noted, and we will see what we can do to address your concerns and your issues that you've outlined here at this meeting. With that being said, again, any comments or questions? Oh, we do have one. No problem.
You want me to repeat my name?
Please, I've just instructed yes.
Heather Lee, 9649 First Street, Interlaken. To me, you guys are doing your job, but to me, it's almost all about the money, money, money. I don't know which part of what you do for the township, I'm sorry, but it's like, let's find them, let's get that money. Because the taxpayers don't have to dish out money to clean up somebody else's property?
No, we're usually paying somebody for the garbage company to go do that. They don't work for free.
Okay, so I was informed that it comes from our taxpayer money. So when you go to court and get that fund back, how do you give it back to us taxpayers?
Goes into the general fund.
Okay?
Because it's out of the existing taxes that you pay.
Okay, that was the question. And the next one is you said you go after 3 people and you take them to court and you win every time. There's got to be some stipulation, because I know a lot of it is the trailer hood, plain and simple. There's people back there that are elder, that have health issues, that have problems cleaning it. I've dealt with Andy on this, or no, excuse me, Isaac on it. And where I lived, the person left a mess. I cleaned it up. But it's like, reading this, you get fined $500 for every nuisance?
That's if. I think Alicia will attest, there's some people, properties that we work with for 2 years.
Yeah.
That, never receive a fine. And we also have a list of available professional junk purveyors, per se, that will come in and remove stuff for the reclamation. The township, we hold a cleanup day, which is in
Yep, I
September,
know
free of charge, with the exception of the stuff that contains Freon.
Yeah.
Or tires, which is batteries, costly endeavor. But, so we assist that, and we get the call, our fire department gets a call, board members get a call, hey, a gentleman is 87, his wife just went to the hospital, and they got stuff out in their yard, they got noticed, we go and help clean up. We reach out, there's other community members that say, hey, if someone has an issue, let us know, we'll help. And the ones that do get fined, we've been working on them for a couple years. It's not 30 days.
Okay.
My endeavor is, I'm a taxpayer as well, and I'm going, no, we're working for compliance here. Everybody has toys. Great. But, it doesn't cost a whole lot to make it look nice, so I've been told. Stacking lumber. I stack lumber smallest on the bottom, biggest on top, because biggest on top is my foundation. I don't want to remove the whole pile to grab the big boards for my foundation. So is that nice, stacked nice? I don't know. I say yes, in that regards. So we're not pushing that, we don't get the money, and it's taken 2 years, 3 years. I think in one case, it's taken 20 years. We finally got it cleaned up after 20 years.
Yeah.
This is a priority. So, to sit there, and if I ever find out that we issued a ticket on day 31, we might have a problem.
Yeah. And the other question I had was seeing like motorhomes and campers in yards and stuff. I know a place back in the hood there, they run out a fifth wheel on their property. Their septic system is a barrel. How come nothing's been done about that?
I
Reported it?
I don't have any idea what
yeah.
considered the hood.
The trailers back in there. That's what we were,
okay,
I was born and raised here, so that's what it's always been called.
Yeah, I'm fourth generation here, so I understand, and, grew up, and, things happen, and circumstances happen, and whatever the case may be, so we weren't aware of that, or I was not aware of that. I don't think anybody here was aware of it, but if we can get the information, we can address that issue. It's not a township issue, it's the Grand Traverse County Environmental and Health Department's issue.
Yeah.
We're here to help, and if there's an issue of any sort, we have enough residents out here that have said, I'll give a hand.
Well, I'm not going to turn them in because they're trying to live just like everybody else, but it's, this has got to be gone over more.
So, it used to be the county junk ordinance, and the sheriff and the prosecutors were pretty adamant on that, and Stu Soul back in the day, and Tammy Rogers, they had no mercy.
Yeah, well, and the thing with the sheriff, I'm sorry, but if he's issuing me a citation and there's somebody getting robbed over there, well, I can't go because I'm doing this. So there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, there's a priority, robbery takes precedence over a lid off a trash can.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Yes. Any other comments, statements, questions? Apparently, we need a blind behind me on the window. Sorry, Mr. Moore. I'm sorry, Mr. Moore. Hopefully, you can still hear us.
Maybe even earlier.
So with that being said, I'm going to move on to the next item.
You got a motion, you got to vote on. Sorry.
Okay, the motion was Merrick supported Kramer.
No, Kramer supported Merrick. I made the motion, Kramer supported. I remember.
Motion made by Kramer, supported by Kramer. Did I get that right?
Yep.
With section 1, with the preamble, section 1 with Long Lake Township, section 3 with the enforcement individuals, with 9 going as 6, 10 as 7, 11 as 8, and
Changing junk
to nuisance.
in the title.
in the title. That being understood, I'd like a roll call vote on this, please.
Merrick,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Biganowski.
Yes.
Kramer, yes, and Radke.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, again, public comment. Again, same terms apply. I would ask that you rise, go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes directed towards myself, AKA the board. Any member of the public wishing to speak at this point in time? Seeing none, I would adjourn this meeting at 5:56 PM.
So moved.
Motion seconded by who?
Kramer.
Kramer. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries 5-1.